The Queen of Granada, by M. Riff. Chapter 176, The Table. As Tobar continued to weave his guitar magic on stage, skillfully melding rhythm and melody, everyone in the audience was engrossed in the music, except for the two girls, who continued to chat and occasionally giggle. One of them muttered, "Isn't Tobar married to that fortune-teller woman called the Queen of Granada?" The other girl replied, "Indeed he is." She added, "People do say he's quite dominated by his wife." The other girl responded, "Well, that might explain why he flirts with every girl he encounters." Rita, with her acute hearing, caught every word of their conversation. She was sure Rosen heard it too. In addition to Tobar's empty chair, there were a couple more vacant ones at the table. One of them, though not entirely unoccupied, had been claimed by Espanto, the black cat, who napped with one eye half open. Shortly after the family had arrived, Espanto had conquered the place. Rita, sitting beside Nuria, noticed her leaning towards the empty chair on her other side and whispering something. Suddenly, one of the young girls exclaimed, "Oh, there must be ghosts here. My glass just tipped over by itself." Rita glanced over at them. The white wine glass had spilled onto the girl's lap. She stood up, frantically trying to wipe away the wine stain with a tissue. Eventually, she gave up and headed for the restroom. Tobar finished his performance, graciously acknowledged the thunderous applause from the audience, and exited the stage. When he returned to the table and sat down, Rosen fell noticeably silent. Her silence persisted during the drive home in the Land Rover, where she sat in the passenger seat. At a red light, out of nowhere, she suddenly shouted at Tobar, "Didn't I tell you to never play that kind of music?" In a subdued tone, Tobar replied, "I played the original version, rooted in Seville and played for centuries by people." Pal remained silent in the back seat, the guitar resting on his lap. Nuria sat tensely between Pal and Rita. Tobar attempted to ease Rosen's sharp tone by glancing in the rearview mirror, first at Pal and then at Rita, explaining, "This music is called Ida y Vuelta. It originated here and journeyed across the Atlantic before returning." Rosen rarely argued with him in front of the children or Rita, but it had happened a few times since their visit to the Alhambra's secret medicinal garden. Rita suspected Rosen's reaction was linked to her worries about the curse, which she seemed to project onto Tobar. Unconsciously, Tobar sought to avoid direct confrontation by engaging the children in conversation each time. But this time, he wasn't successful. Rosen pressed her palm to her forehead, seemingly attempting to stave off an impending migraine. She continued with the same sharp tone, "Do you honestly believe the military regime in this country can distinguish between your original version and the one they broadcast everywhere as revolutionary music from Fidel Castro's Cuba?" To shorten the discussion, Tobar chose to remain silent. The car continued in a tense and fragile silence. "Watch out!" Nuria suddenly exclaimed. For a moment, Tobar thought the little girl had grown tired of the chilly atmosphere. But when he saw Espanto darting in front of the car, he quickly put his foot on the brake and turned the steering wheel to the right. The car bounced off the curb and onto the sidewalk, which was fortunately devoid of pedestrians. Tobar managed to stop the car just before it collided with a newly erected concrete electricity pole. Frightened, the cat quickly fled the scene. In the back seat, Rita managed to brace one hand on the front seat while simultaneously placing the other in front of Nuria, which prevented the little girl from being thrown forward. But Pal was not so lucky. He slammed his forehead against Rosen's seat as he tried to protect with both hands his father's guitar that was resting on his knees. In the driver's seat, Tobar remained steady with both hands on the steering wheel. He looked first at Rosen and then at those in the back seat and asked, "Are you okay?" Without mentioning his bumped head, Pal was the first to respond, declaring loud and clear, "Yes." Rosen looked extremely pale. She had distorted her shoulder as she stretched her arm out to brace herself against the doorframe. yet this was overshadowed by her intense headache. She turned to look at the kids and Rita in the back seat and remarked, "Yeah, just keep going."